Hi everyone. So thanks for joining us for this session. So I'm Charles from Tracex. If you don't know what Tracex is, so it's an open source platform for managing the entire medical device lifecycle. So it helps you to manage your compliance topic as well as all the project management, your requirement specification, test is coming, and so on. So that's for me. And today I have the great privilege of welcoming Amandine and Ilona from Usarea. And they are two usability engineering specialists that will help us to understand about this expertise, about this topic, which is crucial for when you are creating a medical device, and can be unknown for some people. So it's always good to share the good practice. So thank you very much, Amandine and Ilona, to join and to share your experience on that. So the topic is how to integrate usability engineering in your medical device project. And we will review why it's a critical task to create a medical device. Regulation, the norm, of course. There is a norm associated to it. So why is it also for that purpose? Also, they will share some common mistakes and pitfalls to avoid. And a couple of real world examples and to lighten our eyes on this topic. And so if you want to ask questions, there is absolutely no problem. You have this button, ask a question, in the middle of your screen. And so that means you will basically you will be able to speak. So you click on ask a question and then you will be able to share your question. That's option one. Option two, if you don't want to talk, it's absolutely no problem. You can write the question in the meeting chat, and then we will be able to read the questions and to address them. So Amandine and Ilona, let me know what you prefer, but I think you can ask questions during the session, right? So it's probably more living than waiting for the end. So don't hesitate to ask questions. It's always great to respond to questions while we're on the slide. So the floor is yours. Over to you guys.
Okay, perfect. So so thanks everyone for being here, and thanks Charles for the invites. So I can see the meeting right now. So I think if there is any question, Amandine, you could take it, just so I know. So let's start.
I will read too, Amandine. Ilona, I will read too.
Perfect. So I'm Ilona. I'm a UX designer and a researcher with an experience in implementing and conducting the usability engineering process. So globally, I support the manufacturer and the design and evaluation of their interface, combining regulatory compliance and an optimal user experience. And I'm here today with Amandine. I will let her introduce herself right now.
Yes, so hi everyone. So I'm Amandine. I'm a usability specialist in medical devices since 9 years now. So I support medical device manufacturers in implementing and conducting a usability process for both CE marking and FDA clearance, and whatever the device class is. And I've worked with around 30 manufacturers to help them with their process.
Thanks, Amandine. So today we are here we are for Usarea. So with Usarea, we support manufacturers in bringing to market a safe device tailored for the users while meeting the regulatory requirements for CE marking and FDA clearance. So why we are here today? We are here to understand the purpose and the key steps of integrating usability engineering into the development of your medical device. So first, what is usability engineering? So to understand usability engineering, you first need to understand what is usability. So it's a characteristic of the user interface that facilitates the use and thereby establishes effectiveness, efficiency, and user satisfaction in the intended use environment. And because it's always better to understand with an example, let's imagine that you need to design 2 doors, one for a banker and one for a surgeon, who have like completely different needs, use environments, and life globally. So the result will be totally different with the door for the banker and the door for the surgeon, because you don't have the same use. So that's why is usability. And when we talk about usability engineering, it's the application of knowledge about human behaviors, abilities, limitation, and every other characteristic to the design of a medical devices. So when we talk about medical devices, it's also software, system, and task to achieve adequate usability. So the goal is really to understand how users interact with the medical device and to study the impact of user interface design on this interaction. So why it's frequently discussed in the medical device development? It's because in order to obtain the CE marking, you will need to meet the usability engineering requirement of the MDR and IVDR. So globally, in terms of usability, it's the 62366 one from 2015. And so as a specifier, so it's for all medical device and in vitro diagnostic device. And for electromedical medical device, it will be the 66016 from 2010. So why do we apply usability engineering? Because to identify use-related risk, to reduce them to an acceptable level, and to verify that the device can be used safely and effectively. So to go in the subject, so what does this process involve? So you have 7 steps in the usability engineering process. The first one is the use specification, the use-related risk, the selection of the hazard-related use scenario for summative evaluation, the user interface specification, the user interface evaluation plan, the design and formative evaluation, and at the end, the summative evaluation. So we'll go in more details right after on this step. Just so you know, at each step, you must take in account every element of the user interface. So, of course, it includes the physical product or the application and software, but also the accompanying documents, so instruction for use, quick start guide, the implant card, etc. Also the training and the packaging and labeling. So you have to take every of this element during your user interface during the process. And also, you must take into account the user interaction through the entire device life cycle, which means not only the use, but also transport, storage, installation, use, of course, maintenance and repair, and disposal. So now, let's go through the process, and let's start with the first step, the use specification. So it defines the condition of use, the end users, and the task to be performed. So globally, you answer the following question, like who the device is designed for, by whom and where it will be used, and why and how it should function. Normally, without this context, it's impossible to design a safe and effective solution, because this information will guide your design choice and will keep you on the right track from the beginning. So that's why it's done at the beginning of the project. And there is a good chance that you are already collecting a lot of those information during your market research at the beginning of your project. So it's really a great opportunity to take and all the information also that you need for the use specification. So you can really use your market research to gather the information, or you can also decide to run specific studies like interviews, survey, observation, etc. And also keep in mind that it's not fixed. like you write it at the beginning, but you will certainly need to update it regularly through the process. The second step is the use-related risk analysis. So globally, it's involve identifying and analyzing the potential use-related risk of your device. So there are the risk with use error. So what we call use error is a user action or a lack of user action while using the medical device that leads to a different result that the manufacturer intended or that was expected by the users. And as always, it's always better to understand with an example. So let's take the example of an harm caused by a risk related to use error or poor usability. So let's start. So imagine you have an hazard-related use scenario. So the patient has poor eyesight. The measurement units label on the glucose meter are unclear. You have a poor ambient light at the patient's home. So the user will have a use error. So the patient select the blood glucose display in the wrong units and misread the current glucose level. So it's an action that have a consequence, unexpected intended use. Then you have the hazardous situation, so the use of a blood glucose meter that is difficult for the patient to read, which lead to the patient administering an excessive amount of insulin. So this hazardous situation will you expose to the hazard, which is an incorrect medication outcome insulin, and the hazard is the source of the harm, will be the coma. So if there is an incorrect medication outcome, the consequences are coma. And then you have your risk control measure, so what you will do on your user interface to prevent that. So, for example, include backlighting on the display, have a user adjustable display font side. And the idea is that those risk control measures will prevent the user and the hazardous situation to happen. So globally, it's very similar to in the structure to the risk analysis conducted under the 14971. So you can either create a specific use-related risk analysis, or you can also add a usability tag in your global risk analysis. So when should it be started? When identifying the user interface characteristic and defining the use specification. And the risk analysis, it's always update. So you really have to update it regularly. It's really never fixed. The third step is the selection of the hazard-related use scenario that we talked before for the summative evaluation. So the manufacturer should select the hazard-related use scenario to be included in the summative evaluation and justify its selection strategy. Because you can choose all the scenarios, but you can also decide to select scenarios based on the severity of potential harm, or if there is a specific circumstance. For example, you have a scenario that you cannot realize during the test for any reason, and you have to justify why you did this selection. So you should done it right before drafting the summative evaluation protocol. So you select your scenario right before. Okay. Then we have the user interface specification. So it's a set of specifications that fully and prospectively describe the user interface, but more precisely, if we take an example, like for example, you have, let's take the control panel button on your interface. You know that the button must be large enough to prevent accidental activation on the wrong one, and you're going to set a user-specific requirement that will be that the button must have a minimum dimension of 1.5 centimeter in height and width. I'm not used with this word. And you should done it at the beginning at your interface design, as it will be the requirement to do so. And you update it with each modification. The next one is the user interface evaluation plan. So globally, it's you're going to document the objective of each formative and summative evaluation with the associated method. So what you're going to do to evaluate your user interface. So you have to prepare it for the user interface specification, and you update it in case of any modification. For example, you do a formative evaluation, and finally you realize that you don't need a second one, or the contrary. Finally, you need to do a second formative evaluation, and you update your user interface plane as it is. And then you have the design step, so the user interface design. So the manufacturer must design and implement the user interface. So like we said earlier, it includes like running documents, also the training, the labeling, and the packaging also, as described in the user interface specification. And you can also do during this process the formative evaluation. So it's assessments of the user interface conducted with the objective of exploring the strengths and the weaknesses of the user interface design, as well as any anticipated user. So as you can see, you have a lot of methods for your formative evaluation. You have 19 in total. Of course, you don't need to do the 19. You will have to choose the methods you want to do according to your objective. So if you want to update the risk analysis, maybe you will want to do an FMEA. If you want to design creativity, it may be more of co-creating session with the users, for example. And evaluation, if you want to evaluate your device, maybe you will do more usability testing. It really depends of your objective. And how it is organized. So first, like I said, you identify the method you want to use according to your goal. Then you're going to draft a protocol, do the evaluation, of course, and then you will analyze the result and write a report. And at the end, you will say if you are, because on this report a lot of time you have recommendation, and you will decide if yes or no you are going to implement them, and if no, you're going to justify. Just to be specific, you don't need, it's not because it's written on the report that you absolutely have to do the recommendation. You just need to justify why you will not do it. So when should it be done? As early as possible through the design process at every major development step, because you can, for formative evaluation, you can do it on a draft, on an idea, on a really first prototype. You don't need to have really the perfect version to do a formative evaluation. As early as done, the better it is. And just like the market research, if you think about usability really early in the process, you can really optimize the evaluation. For example, you have a meeting about risk, you can decide to talk also about use-related risk and invite representative users to talk about it. You can also, for example, you have an usability testing or interview with users for usability, and you have 3-4 marketing questions also. You can use also the advantage to be with the users to ask this question. So why does formative evaluation are really important? Because first, you eliminate unnecessary and poorly designed features. You better target development priorities, and you prevent design errors that could lead to costly revision once development is completed. And then finally, we have the last step, the summative evaluation. So globally, it's the final assessment of the user interface that it carried out at the end of its development with the objective of obtaining tangible evidence that the user interface can be used safely. So it's really done on the final version of your user interface with 15 participants per user group in a realistic environment, and it's mainly through user testing. So how it's organized. So first you are going to write the protocol. If you have a planned training when the device will be on the market, you have to do the training before the evaluation and then the evaluation. If you don't have a training plan, you don't need to do it. Then you will have to analyze the result and the root cause. and then you will write a report. So when should it be done? So as it has to be done on the final version, the one that is going to be on the market, you have to do it at the end of the user interface development, before commercialization and before your clinical trials. And what comes next? So after your summative evaluation, you will use the result to perform the residual risk analysis in accordance with your risk management procedure. And you're going to ask those questions like, are there any modification necessary? If yes, is there an impact on the critical task or new risk identified? If yes, it will be likely necessary to conduct a new summative evaluation on the modified part of the device, not all the interface. If not, you may not need to conduct a new summative evaluation, but anyway, you will still need to answer continuous post-market surveillance. Yeah, it's an optional step, but that we recommend a lot. That we call it's the usability engineering report. So it helps to structure the usability deliverables and demonstrates the rigor of the process. So really, it's a document that sums up all the usability process that you have done. It should be done so obviously at the end of the usability engineering process. So it's really a step that it's optional, but we really recommend to do it. And on all this process, with Amandine, there's some kind of mistakes that we saw a lot and that we recommend to avoid. So the first one is failing to anticipate the usability process, not conducting enough formative evaluation. Like I said, not integrating all life circles, insufficiently documenting and valuing the work done. Not involving enough stakeholders and departments, and neglecting certain steps in favor of the summative evaluation. And also be very careful because it's not a linear process. At each step, you may need to update a document that has already been written. So, for example, you do a formative evaluation, you discover new risk, you update your risk analysis, etc., and it works for user use specification, the risk analysis, the user interface specification, the evaluation plan. Like it's really a living process. Like even if you wrote something, you may go back to it through the step. And I will now let this Amandine answer this question for now. I will pass you the voice.
All right, so I will talk about device already on the market. So do you need to follow the process if your device is already on the market? The answer is yes, but you can use the Annex C of the standard, which was designed for interfaces marketed before 2015, for which no record of usability file in accordance with the EN 62366 2015 was found, and for which no major modification of the user interface have been made. Because if you have designed a device in 1990 and you have modified everything in 2014, it doesn't work because you don't have enough data to do the process. And so this is what we are. These interfaces are called UP, for user interface of unknown provenance, because they are unknown from the usability engineering process according to the 2015 version of the standard. And so for this kind of devices, you can follow a simplified process, which consists in first step, use specification, second step, the review of your post-production information. In case you don't have enough post-production information, you will have to conduct an additional study to gather some data. And then you have to identify your hazard and hazardous situations that are related to usability in order to describe your risk control measure currently in place on your device. And then you will have to perform the residual risk evaluation to confirm if all your risks are acceptable or not, and if not, if you can do some modification or if nothing can be done. And to be noted that for UP devices, for example, for a device, you can have some parts of your device that are UP and some other parts that are not UP. Because, for example, if you modified all your instruction for use, this will have to follow the entire process, while if you don't modify your device, it can be a UP.
Amandine, we have a question from Emma. So do you provide some usability templates? That's more for me. Do you provide usability templates on Trace's interface? That's a very good question. So yes, it's possible, but that would be provided by experts. So for example, like the way Tracix works is that we are a software, but we are not experts. We work with experts. We have partnerships with experts. So some partners can put their own templates on the platform, but we don't, in our own name, put templates for many reasons. One is that we're not expert, so tools that are doing that are usually like taking like some part of templates and they're collecting together and shaping an offer. So we don't want to do that. We prefer like people to make available their own templates. And the other reason is because we're a software, and we are doing partnerships with experts, consultant partners, and experts, and so that's why we can promote the templates from our partners, but not on our own name. So in that case, you could ask Ilona and Amandine if they could set up some templates. We'll give it back to you. So would you have some templates, you guys, you would provide?
I don't know if you want to answer or if I answer.
Oh, you can go.
Yeah. We can provide some templates depending on which step. But yeah, we can provide templates depending on the step. Like if it's every step of the process, we have a template. I don't know if this answered the question.
I think she said, okay, thanks for the answer. So, I mean, I think.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't see I can see the meeting.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. But thank you. Don't hesitate, guys. If you have any question, we are here for that too.
So maybe Ilona, you can go to. Yes, thank you. And before going to the conclusion, a few words about the differences between the CE process and the FDA process for usability engineering. So for references for CE marked, it's the 62366 standard, while for the FDA, it's the guidance applying human factor and usability engineering to medical devices. But the FDA recognized the 62366. So both are applicable, but for FDA, you really have to follow their guidance while also applying the 62366. Just a few words about terminology. For CE marking, we are talking about usability engineering, while for FDA, we talk about human factors engineering. And for CE, we talk about summative evaluation, while for FDA, we talk about human factors validation testing, but it's exactly the same thing. Regarding interaction with notified body or authorities, for CE marking, there is a review of your usability engineering file by the notified body at the final audit for class 2 and class 3 medical devices. And sometimes you can submit your evaluation plan during intermediate audit just to demonstrate that the usability process is in progress and that you will do something. While for FDA, you have the pre-sub program allowing a review of your protocol by FDA human factors experts committee. It's really highly recommended. It's not clearly say that it's mandatory, but I would highly recommend to do it. Then regarding ethic committees, so for CE marking, it's rarely necessary. Just to say that for usability, everything is simulated. So normally you don't have to go through ethic committee. While for FDA, it's highly recommended to have institutional review board that consults your protocol, because they can give you like a go to say that there is no risk for your user. It's mostly for study that involves patients, such as diabetic patients or pediatric users, while for healthcare professional, it's not so mandatory to go through an IRB. But I would say that it's better to have an IRB, whatever your user are. And regarding test location, so for CE marking, you don't have any specific geographical restriction. While it's in Europe, you can do your test wherever you want. While for FDA, they want you to conduct the test in the US with American residents. And regarding documentation, as Ilona said, the usability engineering report is optional for CE marking. It's a good practice. While the FDA expects human factors engineering report, which is quite the same thing that the usability engineering report, but which is mandatory for the FDA. And just as a conclusion, as we saw, the usability engineering process is not just a regulatory requirement, it's really essential for a safe and intuitive device. And if you integrate it too late, you risk late and costly changes. A study shows that change that has been made really lately in the process is about 10 times more expensive than early changes. You can risk a recall of your device due to design error affecting the device use. Also, a user rejection due to an interface that is non-intuitive or that not meet their need, because even if your device is really safe to use, maybe it's not pleasant to use and people won't use it or won't buy it. And you risk an extended time to market, because if you perform a first submit evaluation and the results are wrong, you have unacceptable risk, and you have to perform some modifications of changes, and you have to redo a new submit evaluation. You will lose about 3 or 4 months or 6, and you will lost money and time. And so the usability engineering process must be planned, integrated, and documented from the start of development and during the entire process by competent personnel. And I think that's all we had for today. So here you just have a QR code if you want to send us a mail in case you need some help with your usability engineering process. And now if you have any question, we will be more than happy to answer to it.
Thank you very much, Ilona and Amandine, for that. Do you guys have any question? You can, as a reminder, you can jump on the ask a question button, or you can write on the chat, and we can read it for you. That was very clear. Well, while it's warming up, I have a couple of things in mind. I will trap you now on questions. So basically, yeah, you mentioned about risks management and the usability risks. And so usually, I mean, we have the activities from the ISO 14971 that manage the risks in the medical for the medical device. But do you recommend? Do you recommend to integrate the risks that you guys have found with the overall risks from the on the product, on the risk management process?
Yeah. You have two ways of seeing things. One thing will be to do the usability risk apart from your global risk analysis, but I'm not sure it's to begin. It's not the good things, because you will have to harmonize your severity and frequency with your global risk analysis process. Or what you can do is to integrate directly usability in your risk analysis and put like a tag for usability and saying, yes, I identified all the risk related to usability of my device, especially if you start by the preliminary hazard analysis. You will have several risk used related to usability, so then you have to integrate them in your risk analysis.
Okay, so you recommend sort of to do it, yeah, to integrate. What do you do? We would say it depend on the company, right?
Yeah, it depends on company, but most of the time it's done directly in the risk analysis, in the global risk analysis.
Okay, okay. Okay, anything else?
I think we have a question from Olga.
So we want to work with compatible apps for our device. We just supply data to platforms. How can we ensure the usability of data if we don't manage the data interface ourselves? That's interesting.
Yeah, so if you don't have any user interface except like data, if you don't have any interface, you cannot guarantee the usability except if you have like a small app maybe or a small software or plugin to implement. But
I think they have. I mean, there are apps, but they are not their apps. I think they are integrating with others. That's where I understand the question.
yeah, so if you have only responsible of data, it's the responsibility of the other manufacturers or other clients to ensure that the interface is have a good usability and is safe to use.
Thank you. Okay. I have another one. So because the process you describe is pretty, I mean, formative, summative might be extremely expensive. I mean, I have figures in mind, but you probably have better ones. What if I'm a startup? I'm a medical device startup company. I'm not, right? I'm not a medical device company. What if, for the question, I am? What should I expect in terms of pricing? What's the minimum activities that needs to be done to still be compliant and to still have a valid product, but with the budget constraint in mind, if I'm a young medtech company?
Yeah, so unfortunately, the process is the same, even if you are a startup or another bigger company. What is mandatory from 62366 is your use specification, your risk analysis, and especially your summative evaluation. For example, it's not mandatory to perform formative evaluations, but I cannot say that to save costs, don't do.
Yeah, because it's cheaper than expensive, right?
Yeah, it's the cheapest one, and it's the most important one. I mean, summative evaluation is more like for regulatory compliance, while formative is really to have a good device, an intuitive one. But I would say to mix evaluation. For example, as Ilona specified at the beginning, everyone is doing interviews to do a market research first. While you launch a device, you want to know who are your users, what are their needs. And for example, integrate a question for your use specification during your marketing research. As such, you will do only one study instead of dedicated study for this. Same for your formative evaluation. For example, if you have marketing or design question or anything, and you will have to go and to interview some people, enjoy to take some prototypes or anything to mix the evaluation. So I would say that before summative evaluation, if you want to save some cost, just mix.
Basically, de-risk in advance. That's what you mean, right?
Yeah, mix your study with your marketing things or whatever you want to develop your device. Just mix your study and value everything for usability.
Okay, makes sense. And do you have like a price tag? Like I'm still like, okay, I'm a young startup medtech medical device software class 2A. What should I expect in terms of for this process in terms of price tag?
It depends because what I want to say is that
US or Europe, I guess.
yes, but as you can do it internally, for example, the only cost that you really have is, for example, for your summative evaluation, if you do it by yourself, is the recruitment of your users. because you will have to have at least 15 participants, and if you have a specific target, it will cost you a lot generally. But I mean, if you are doing everything internally, you will have human cost of doing it. But for usability, you don't have to call like a lab for like electromechanical device or anything. You can perform everything on your own, even in your own office. Basically, if you do it on your own, except recruiting and paying user, you won't have several too much cost, I would say.
Okay. Jonathan, that is asking a couple of questions. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for the presentation first. Thank you. Do you think it's a full-time job, or can it be handled by RA or QA manager?
It depends, because it's my job, so I would say that it has to be handled by a usability specialist.
It has to be done by you, only you in the world.
Exactly.
Yes,
but in most of companies, sometimes we are training some companies, and it is handled by QA manager, for example, with the help of R&D, because they need some prototypes and some input, for example, for the user interface specification, because they need to know if it's feasible or not from a R&D point of view. But yes, it can be managed by a QA manager or era manager. It just needs time to perform the evaluations, but however, it's totally feasible. But with the second question, I would say that yeah, it's really recommended to be trained to do it, like to follow a one-day training on this topic, to be able to know every step and what is expected. And then after, you can call the train experts. You can do both. For example, I know that at Usarea, what we do is that for some companies, we don't do everything. For example, we draft the protocol, then the company is doing the test, and then we review the report or thing else. You can adjust everything in case you want to save some cost on some parts, or you can do things by your own, but it's totally feasible by QA manager.
And so the underlying question that he has, but you sort of responded a bit, in terms of training. So do you need to be trained to execute? Let's say you have the QA or RA manager that's doing that part of the job. They need to be like trained and to pass a certain type of training to do it.
What the standard is saying is that it must be done by competent personnel. They don't specify what it means,
Okay.
but it's based on experience and or anything else. So, for example, if you are the people in charge of the legal part of the manufacturer, you won't be able to perform the usability process. But if you work in a regulatory fields, or most of the time research and development, following a training, we can say that you are competent to do it.
Okay. Jonathan, yeah, you said crystal clear.
Perfect.
Okay, did I have a couple of other things? Yeah, in terms of so for formative, maybe more for more summative. So recruitment of like users, representative users. So what's for like, especially like for niche medical device, like you want like specific doctors, like oncologists in specific area. I mean, how do you usually do to recruit these people?
You have mostly two cases. The first one is like you have an agreement with an hospital or with some doctors, and they provide you their time to do it. And if you want to give them some money, you just have to perform all the contract for anti-gift laws and anything else. But the second option, which is the best from my point of view, is to call companies specialized in the recruitment of participants for this kind of study. There are several ones which have a panel of participants of like 10 oncologists or anything else, and they can set up the study for you. So they will recruit your participants, make the appointments, and pay them, and do the anti-GIF and transparency declaration, which is mandatory for France, for healthcare professionals. So they will do everything. So you can do both, call a company specialized in this, or do it by yourself with some agreements with centers or some doctors that agreed to participate.
Okay, well, that's two options then. Okay, that makes sense. But that's sort of it on my end. I'm reading at the chat, and it looks like someone just arrived, a bit late. So I feel like we responded to the questions on the chat. So, but I would like to thank you very much, Ilona and Amandine, for presenting this webinar and to share a lot about usability engineering, which can be known or more unknown for some people, but is very, very important in the process. So thank you very much, guys, and thanks, guys, for joining us and to this session. And I will host like another session probably in a month on another topic. I will share soon, but probably from next week. I'm not gonna mention anything yet, but it's another very interesting topic that will, let's say, that will combine validating medical device and AI with AI. So how do you a medical device with AI? How do you clinically validate it? Okay, I said it now. It's too late. But you don't know the date yet. I will share additional information from next week. So yeah, but thank you very much, guys, and talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.